So as we've said, postmodernism is art as much as furniture. It's something that speaks to a certain kind of individual in the upper classes. So what is everyone else doing? Well, that draws me back to Ikea. Why are we talking about Ikea? Because this is really a great example of how the other 99% are going to be decorating. Whether you're looking at something like Ashley Furniture or Steinhofels or Walmart, really they're all following the same basic model. So let's talk about the history of Ikea and how it affects interior design. Now, it's going to be founded in 1943 by a man whose name I cannot pronounce. And he's going to start out by just creating furniture. As we move into that period of 1947 to 1951, he will move into more functional furniture, usually at an inexpensive price. This shed is actually where he starts, where Ikea starts. So very small showroom, very efficient. Now, he will start to focus on affordable and functional primarily by 1951. This is where he gets into the flat pack design. And flat pack simply means that the furniture is broken down into flat pieces, put into a box, you take it home and put it together yourself. And we'll see where that can lead in a minute. But the advantage is it creates very low-cost furniture. Usually the materials are going to be fairly inexpensive, and you don't have to pay someone to put it together. So you're basically creating a kit and then leaving the poor homeowner to do the rest. Sometimes it doesn't turn out quite the way you would think. And there is something of an art movement where people will post on sites such as Instagram or Pinterest these constructions that look like they come from IKEA boxes. In some cases, they are actual IKEA pieces that are built in very strange and arguably sculptural ways. Now, their first store will open in 1958. This is a picture of it. It was a massive store, and if you look at the architecture, it's got this very modernist feel. It's not a very postmodern kind of building. Instead, it has that modernist form or function over form sort of idea. It's a big rectangular box full of stuff. So they eventually start to expand. They will move into Germany, one of their biggest markets. We'll see them developing into the US in 1985. This is one of their first stores out east. And that is pretty much the history of IKEA. Now, one of their major assets is going to be the use of vignettes. So what they're doing is they're putting together these little scenes where people can imagine that in their home. We've seen this before. We saw this around the turn of the century when we were talking about department stores. But the advantage is these vignettes kind of get rid of the need of an interior designer. You have this idea that if I just buy all the stuff that's here, it will all match, it will all work. It's all, basically self-directed. The stores are also laid out in such a way that you need to pass through almost everything to get to the end. You can't get out easily. Yes, there are shortcuts, but for the most part, you have to pass through lots of stuff that you don't necessarily need, encouraging you to buy more stuff. Something to keep in mind if you ever are asked to do retail design. Now, their designs tend to be very functional, very simple. They lack ornamentation, very postmodern or modern in that, very modern in that sense. They lack ornamentation. They typically come in natural wood, black and white, things that fit most homes. And they're meant to be classic. So you'll see a lot of rectilinear forms. You're going to see things that are very, very conservative in terms of their design. Even in chairs and other pieces, again, these are very classic, very conservative. They're not taking risks. This is not postmodern furniture. And that's why it speaks to such a large group of our society, because at the end of the day, these people see things that they can recognize. And so they're going to buy it because it's at a reasonable price. And of course, user effort plus good product design means happy user. It's also in part the Ikea effect. If I have to build the furniture, I'm going to be more attached to it, which means I'm more likely to go back and get more. You see how this goes. So what's the problem here? Well, ultimately, what you have from Ikea is furniture that is built for a specific function and not built expensively. This is not the sort of thing that we've been used to looking at, where you might have a carpenter building a piece of solid wood. Instead, what we see is the use of laminates, the use of particle board, and in some cases, the use of thin wood slats or cardboard inside as material. This is why you hear stories about people dropping heavy objects through their Ikea table, because it's very, very possible. So why are they doing this? Why does this speak to this society from the 1970s into today, or up to today? And the reason is it's inexpensive. I can change it on a regular basis. If I have a $150 desk, I'm going to go ahead and replace it every 5 years or so when something more popular comes up or a new form that I think is going to be more useful appears. And so it speaks to that consumerism. It also speaks to the flexibility of today's society, where we might move on a regular basis. And so let's just get rid of the furniture, then I don't have to move it, and we'll get new stuff at the new place that fits the aesthetic of whatever beige or taupe or white box I've moved into. So you get the idea. This is how most people are designing. This is where they're getting their furniture. And it's why, because it's classic design. It's nothing that's going to be offensive. It tends to be fairly conservative, and it fits, therefore, in most people's homes.